So, ARGO SRV. I rented it in the expo and I'd like to make a video about it. Unlike in my previous videos, I'm going to do the exterior at the end of the video. Also, I'm going to focus on the ship interior and the quality of the ship, and not so much about how the controls work of the SRV. Okay, so one part of the interior is the cargo grid, which you can access by this MFT. Yeah, very nice audio. Like, it's just pure mechanical, there's no sci-fi stuff in it. And it appears to be perfectly timed to the animation. Okay, so that's the external cargo grid. Now let's get into the ship. Yeah, that sounds great. Like, it's perfectly timed. Let's get inside. Now this makes a great first impression. Also, I've been in the ship earlier and I've set all the ship lights to the dimmed version so I can switch them on. And that's already the best looking ship so far from what I can see in the entire game. Like, the only ship I would compare to in terms of not the way it looks, but in terms of asset quality is the Hammerhead. So that's like way up there with the Hammerhead in quality so far. You can see that here the orange with the gray, and then some very soft white light with some green tint in it. That's like one of the most tasteful combinations in lighting I've seen in this game. But so soft the light is. And just like structurally, the way the elevator, like how efficient the whole space is filled. And what I really like is that, let's take a look at the side. Okay, let's do the cockpit later. Notice here, everything looks functional on this side. It's not it doesn't have some chunky bits of sci-fi just for the sake of being sci-fi. It's pure functionality you can see here. It's beautiful. And the compactness of the space, it's cramped but also cozy, and like it feels like they're using the room efficiently and they're avoiding excessive sci-fi angles. Like, that's just a beautiful interior. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, some exposed thing on the top. Also got no helmet on, so I can't use a flashlight. In terms of texture quality, I'll check it when I turn the lights on. Okay, so yeah, I'll review the rest of the ship with the lights on. So first, let me put the lights on. Okay, so there's a cut in the video because I logged out in the bed, logged back in to get the lights back on. Okay, now we look at the lights being switched on. And I think it feels a bit washed out if you use the full lights. So in terms of lighting quality, it's a bit like, I like how diffuse it is. They have no overexposed aggressive lighting, at least not in that room. See, that's almost perfect lighting over here. It's defined. However, it doesn't have like it's not overexposed and not too dark. What I also like in the ship is it doesn't have a lot of these random blinking lights everywhere to make it look sci-fi. It just has that functional appearance, like the light is there because it should be. Okay, now in this room, I think the lighting here is overexposed, and I think the orange, it looks great, but I think they should have mixed up some of the paneling to be less orange. For example, this area could be some darker gray, like on the raft, some brown grays a bit more. Like, I like it as an accent color, but I think it's a slight amount too much in that room. But in terms of geometry, it's beautiful. Like, that's, I think, one of the most beautiful rooms in the game. And you cannot go wrong with Nostromo type padding. I think most ships should have that. Okay, so I think this room is a bit too overbright, and there's some lighting fog from the light shafts. Because notice when you enter this room, you have to squint your eyes a bit. That's usually a sign of too much lighting. Oh, the audio is crisp. Yeah, the audio is perfect so far. Okay, got a toilet. Let's try to check this out. Again, perfectly timed the audio to the animation. That's great. Almost nothing to complain. The table looks nice. Like, it's just, that's one thing that annoys me in the ship is like, this area is way too bright. You see that? Like if you want to sit here and relax, it's that area is too bright. But it's currently the only thing that I really don't like in the ship. So in terms of texture quality, I think it still looks too much like styrofoam like in most other ships, but it's not as bad as on Drake ships. Okay, so let's look at the scoring of the ship a bit, then I'm going to the cockpit. So I rate my ships usually in exterior, interior, functionality, cockpit, lighting, and sound. Now in terms of functionality, now I'll leave the SRV beam, I'll leave it out for this video. Because I haven't walked through the controls really well. And so far I figured out you can tow another ship with it, so cargo I think, but I haven't used it much. So let's focus on the... Let's focus on the interior. That's texture, quality, like anything that's not just the functionality, just the quality of the interior. And yeah, that thing is almost perfect. Like the way the space is used. But the way the elevators fit into the place and they actually use different colors for it. So yeah, interior, I give it I think it's a 9.5. ARGO SRV. Interior, 9.5 out of 10. Now, the one thing I don't like is that texturing should be better. Now, this looks great for a Star Citizen ship, but if you look at other games, current generation or even 5-year-old games, they have a much better definition of plastic, metals, aluminum, cloth. And that's still a bit lacking in this game. You can tell it here on the pipes, for example. That's a bit of a weak point. But in terms of, compared to other ships in Star Citizen, that's, I think, the most perfect interior I've ever seen. Like, the only things that come close is the hammerhead and the reclaimer. So in terms of functionality, so I really like it. I like that the exterior cargo area has this really nicely fitted MFD you can use, like at the beginning of the video. And all the doors have their switches. Now let's look at the component hatches and listen to them especially. That's perfectly fitted audio. Absolutely perfect. Also realize, notice here, you can actually tell by the buttons with the light next to it, which button is assigned to what. You see, that component actually has some nice material definition. Notice here, that's some, looks like some painted plastic. Then you got aluminum over here. So you have all the component hatches, almost all of them working. You have the cockpit. You have the SRV thing, and the back is working. I'm not going to show it for the video because it's you can barely see it in the dark. Actually, I could show it when I'm in the cockpit. Then the elevator is nice, and in terms of functionality, it's really great that you have the cargo grid on the inside, on the outside, but you also can just stack boxes up here and load it into the ship. And it's a generously spaced elevator. It's not like on the raft, where you have a much smaller elevator, and you have the airlock to access, but then you have to throw the boxes in. So I think functionality, I think it has everything you need in a ship. Yeah, I'll give it the functionality. So what score should I get for functionality? I mean, I can't consider anything particularly missing on that ship that it shouldn't have. So yeah, I'll give that a 9 out of 5, 2 out again. Okay, now what else do we have? We have lighting, sound in the exterior, and the cockpit. Okay, let's continue with lighting. The lighting is great, except for the rear area. Notice here, that area is a bit too washed out. Especially that lamp is overexposed. Other than that, notice here that light halo that really washes out everything. See that? And you go through it. Maybe that light halo from here is actually washing out. So now it's washed out in itself. Like this room, notice it, it's too bright. You have to squint your eyes. Like if that wasn't the case, then I would give it a 10. So let's give the lighting an 8. I'm torn between 9 and 8. So I'll give it a 9. 9 out of 10, okay. Now I'll do the cockpit now. Very crisp audio, well timed to the sound. The cockpit experience is how good the cockpit looks in terms of the way it's supposed to look. Now, that's a general problem I don't like here. Notice here, that's a bit low geometry quality, and the texturing is also really bad. Not as bad as in most other ships, but it should be better. See here, that part, the top the same. See here, that's just quickly extruded boxes and some random texture slapped onto it. Like, that part of the ship needs to be much more detailed, because if you play Flight Simulator like DCS, those are the most detailed places on the ship, because that's in front of your face all the time. So cockpit, I'll give it a... I mean, it's not too packed, but it shows what it has. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Okay, cockpit is 7 out of 10. Now I get sound and exterior. I'll take the ship, I'll take off with the ship and listen to all the sounds, and then I'm rating the sounds on the interior. Okay, listening. Now the interior, it sounds too synthetic. You hear that synthetic sound. On the exterior, it sounds beautiful. It's crisp and rocket engine, but the interior is too synthetic. And here's an interesting sound when you turn really hard. It can't be hard right now, I have to be faster. Because this is a sound that simulates like metal rattling if you're basically turning too hard against G-forces. And that rattling, I think... See, that's what I don't like. You hear that? That synthetic humming. It sounds too sci-fi. You hear that? I hear that rattling. Wait a minute. See, I like the concept of the rattling, but it's too rhythmic. It needs to have some arrhythmia into it, like some breaks in the rhythm, because it's too rhythmic. But I like what it's trying to do. So the rocket engine part sounds great. It's just the rattling that's a bit weird. I'm just gonna take off so I can check it out from the exterior. I mean, I gave the raft an 8 out of 10 because it had a really nice top plate. This ship doesn't have it, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for the exterior. And now let's review the sound. As I mentioned in previous parts in the video, the audio is fantastic. Like, most mechanical things are perfectly timed and they're crisp. Like this one. Perfectly timed audio, like that's how it should be. On the interior, here's some humming that's a bit too loud, and the engine sounds. But then again, they might fix that with the new realistic audio setting they showed off in Sitcom. So in terms of interior audio, the crispness of the elevator, I think it's the best audio I've heard in the ship so far. So yeah, audio, I'll give it a 9 out of 10.